All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor here at Free Spiritual Community. We are a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. That's what we do, but what don't we do? We don't do shame in this community. Where's Francis? Francis, I got it in for you early, brother. He called me out last week when I didn't get it in, and he did shame on me to not say we don't do shame. No, we're serious about that. We don't do shame in this community. A few things y'all need to know about. First, to our online crowd, people, community, welcome. Glad you're here. If you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, if you're on our app or website, wherever you're joining us from, we welcome you. You are a vital part of this community. If you're in your free circle, your sober living homes, your wherever y'all gather to be part of this night, even if it's later in the week, we're glad you're part of this community, so welcome. Few things you need to know about. First, August 16th at is it 6:30? I think it's a 6:30, 6:40 game is our free Rockies night. We were given 100 Rockies tickets. So we want y'all to come to the Rockies game with us. We have a whole section that Derek Didle worked this deal for us, got these tickets donated to us. I think there's about 30 tickets left. So if you want a ticket, if you haven't gotten one yet, like I said, that's August 16th. They are playing the San Diego Padres. If you want a ticket, Derek will be here soon. Talk to Derek. We are asking for a $5 donation, $5 suggested donation. By the way, all that money goes right back into the Welcome Home Fund, which we'll talk about later. It goes into the Welcome Home Fund, and that's just so a bunch of people aren't taking tickets and then they're not showing up. You got a little skin in the game. So if you want to come to the Rockies game August 16th, you're invited. Just talk to me or Derek afterwards or someone here. We'll get you a ticket. We have the tickets here. August 16th, it's a 6:40 game. I hope you come and join us. A couple other things I want to mention to you. Matt and Amy got these beautiful, cool decals made. These decals go right on your vehicle. They don't look cool like this, but when they get on your vehicle, they look really cool. It's a free decal. We are selling these for $10. And again, all that money goes back into the Welcome Home campaign. So thank you, Matt and Amy, for making these for us and donating them to us to sell to you. If you haven't gotten a decal yet to put on your vehicle, you're not riding in style. Y'all need a decal. So get one, $10. If you want one, see me afterwards. I'll keep them up here. Also, man, I feel like we're just selling stuff tonight. We're really not about that, but we've got some new stuff in here. So hats, if you dig this hat, we just got these hats in today. There's pure black ones in the back. Our hats are for $25. We got T-shirts coming this week, and I say that because so many of y'all have been asking for hats and T-shirts. We ran out of T-shirts. They're coming this week. They're $25 as well. So if you want that, see someone in the back. We'll get you hooked up. The shirts aren't here yet. They'll be here next week, but we've got some hats here. So check it out. Okay. One other thing you want to know about maybe is this Wednesday evening coffee. Is that Wednesday? I said it wrong. It's Tuesday evening, August 10th. Coffee with Canada. That's going to be right here for our non-local people, you people online. If you're in a different state, you can join us. The Zoom link, the ID is on that flyer, so screenshot it if you want to join us. If you're local, come here at 7, from 7 to 8:30. Ask any questions. We want you to come. We're going to do some visioning together. We're going to talk about why are we doing this Welcome Home campaign? Why have we been raising $600,000? Yes, a bummer thing happened. If you weren't here last week, we found out last week we had to terminate the contract on the new space that we were so excited about for the last 3 months. But we're going to still keep going because that's one thing that's been abundantly clear in this community. It's not just about space, is it? It's about people, the community, the mission of breaking the silence of addiction. So if you want to come and be part of that conversation, that's happening here Tuesday, 7 o'clock to 8:30. And we'll have some snacks for y'all. We'll have a good time of conversation. I want y'all to be thinking about, where do you see yourself playing a role in this community? If you're kind of on the margins and you're thinking, man, I want to get a little bit more involved, I want you to be thinking about that question. How can you play a more active role in this community? How might you be more involved? All right, y'all. Glad you're here this evening. We are in our emotions series. We're in the third week, but before we get there, we have a little video for y'all. Francis was gracious enough to come in. Francis, can you just wave your hand in the back for those that don't know Francis? He rides in on his Harley, parks in the front because there's no parking here. So, and he wears his cut-off Harley shirt. I love having Francis here. Here's what you need to know about Francis. He came in about 4 months ago, right? And he has not missed a Saturday night since he came that very first week. So he's a staple in this community. He came in and shared some words with us. We caught it on video. My brothers and sisters, here's Francis.
My name is Francis. I'm alcoholic, and free is my spiritual home. Alcohol's been a problem in my life, my whole life, and I never knew it. It worked for a long time. It went from working from happy hour to miserable hour, almost overnight. And when it became miserable, I was introduced to AA. My father passed away with a lot of years of sobriety, and I had to get sober. Looking back now, I wasn't done. I don't believe I was done. I stopped going to meetings. I stopped praying. I put my job ahead of my sobriety. And sure enough, that drink looked good one day. And today I have a solid 1 year of sobriety coming up here real quick. It's been wonderful, wonderful experience.
Did you feel welcomed?
Definitely welcome. You bet. I keep coming back. I haven't missed a Saturday yet since I was introduced to it. I think that was one of the first topics when I came here, was Ryan had shared some of his story. And every week that I walk in, it's we don't do shame. And if he forgets that, I gladly remind him. I think it's an important factor here. It's helped me. Anybody that's new, I've been trying to find exactly what the attention is, what the magnetism is that I'm getting here, but it's, to sum it up, is a combination of Alcoholics Anonymous and church, and my higher power's working in my life for me, and I think that's the attraction. Is I did a thorough step 2, trying to turn my will and my life over to the care of God, as I understand Him. And I think that plays a large part here for me. Alcohol was my master. If you're out there struggling and not comfortable in meetings, or just really in your heart want to stop, you got to be honest with yourself and with your alcoholism. And then all you have to do is walk in the door here. You're going to feel welcome, and just ask somebody. Real simple. I can't stop drinking. I need some help. And I guarantee you'll be overwhelmed with respect, for one. You won't feel shame, that's for sure. You'll feel welcome. And chances are I'll be here. So come talk to me.
Wait, give it a second. Here we go. Yes, Francis. Man, if y'all don't know Francis, talk to Francis before you leave. He's one of the kindest souls I've met. Francis, thank you for reminding me we don't do shame. Keep reminding me if I forget it. And, dude, I'm glad you're part of this community. If you haven't met him yet, meet Francis. Don't leave here without getting to know Francis. All right, y'all, the way we start these evenings here at Free Spiritual Community is we celebrate together. We don't ignore the hard stuff. We don't ignore the heartaches, but we don't start there. We start with celebrating. So this is your opportunity to take a couple of minutes for you online. Get honest, get vulnerable. Let this community celebrate with you. Type it in the comments. We want to celebrate with you. This community wants to celebrate with you. And these are the good things that happen in life. Your sobriety anniversaries or birthdays or anniversaries, wedding anniversaries or new jobs, new babies, whatever the new thing in life is, we want to celebrate it with you. If you are in the house, we will celebrate together here. Then we'll join y'all in just about 3 minutes. So take 3. We'll be right back.
Hello world, wake me up to another good morning, time to go. Got that smile upon my face, 'cause there's excitement in the chase, this I know. Yeah, I'm going for the ride and find myself, I am alive, and I soar. Still I run towards the wind and let the challenge draw me in, 'cause I want more. Oh, we are all looking for adventure. 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 Oh, wake up heart and wake up mind, and see the world is yours to find. And with every passing day there's more, calling you out to explore. Get up and go. There is joy found in the race, and I feel it in the place where I'm free. And I simply can't deny it, that I feel adventure calling out to me. Yeah, we are all looking for adventure. 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 We are all looking for And I'm living free, living free, living free, and I was meant to be. Living free, living free, living free, and I was meant to be. I'm living free.
All right. Let's join back with our online people. By the way, if you still have celebrations, I know we can't always get to everyone here in the house, but man, let someone know. Let someone know the good news in your life before you leave tonight, because we need to celebrate that stuff. I should join my wife up here. I'm going to come, honey. Just bear with me. For those of you that don't know, this is Tammy Canaday, co-founder of Free, owner and operator of Wagon Coffee.
Woo! Sipping on some white coffee tonight.
Yeah, you going to sleep tonight? We'll see. We'll see. You could camp. The tent is still up.
Perfect.
I camped outside with the kids last night in the backyard. That went over well till about 3:30. Okay, let's celebrate with our people, shall we? Where are we at? We on this one?
There wasn't space for me, right, Pam? Vicky says, celebrating being able to join in with this community. Glad that you're here too, Vicky.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that with us, Vicky. Glad you're here. Glad you're part of this community. Really? Only 2 online? Are they not celebrating tonight? Sam says, got to experience the Van Gogh exhibit today with friends I haven't seen in over 2 years. All right, Sam, we're celebrating
That's
that with you.
fun.
Glad you got to do that today. Is that really all the online ones? Well, we got a quiet online community tonight. Well, listen, for you, those of you online, you need to know that in this room we celebrated people here from Peru, new friends from Peru. We celebrated 30 days sober. We celebrated 14 months sober. We celebrated entry into grad school. Man, all kinds of things celebrated here. We love to do that together as a community. It's important work because we don't want to get bogged down into heavy. We got to remember to celebrate along the way. So glad you all are here to do that together with us. We are in the third week of emotions. I wanted to say, we wanted to have a little fun with these emotions and like anxiety. Well, how do you have fun with anxiety? It's kind of heavy. Then, let's go from anxiety to sadness tonight. So these are important, though, because what I'm reminded every week when I sit down to really look through these themes, how easy it is for us to ignore these emotions. So that's why we're dealing with these. Next week, we're going to start coming up a little bit. In fact, let me just say this real quick, give you all a heads up. So we have 2 weeks. Compassion is next week, then resentment, and then we're taking a week off. Because let me tell you all something, from the very first, we've only been going for 2.5 years, but from our very first year, it was really important that every 1 week of summer we call it rest week. We have 2 rest weeks in a year, 1 week in the summer and then 1 week after Christmas. And that's where the people here at Free, leadership, whatever, we don't do anything. We take that Saturday off. And so that is in 2 weeks, August 28th. We're off that week. We're not meeting. So don't come here because it's going to be locked up. Don't jump online because there's nothing happening. August 28th is our rest week. We take rest here seriously. And we live in a world where that's hard to do. We live in a world that tells you to go, 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 and you're never productive enough. You're never efficient enough. And rest is really important. So that's why we're doing that. We'll come back the first week in September and do joy. And then the next series is going to be all sorts of fun. I'll tell you about that next week. All right, here's a little video on emotions. Sadness. So culturally, I said this in email, I said it on Facebook, on Instagram, whatever. Culturally, we suck at sadness, don't we? I mean, it is the one emotion out of all these 6 emotions we're doing. It is the one we want to ignore most. It's the one we want to avoid. We want to shove this thing under the carpet. Anything not to feel this one. And we could start with this. Have you ever had those days where you just feel sad? And I'm not talking about that kind of prolonged sadness that can often lead to depression, but those days where you just feel a bit of sadness creeping in and you can't exactly tell where it's coming from. You're like, where'd that come from? Today I'm not very productive. Today I'm not very efficient. Today things aren't getting done. Where did this come from? On last Sunday, we flew out to Phoenix, me and Tammy. It was just a quick 24-hour overnight with some dear friends, and we were midway through the flight. If you ever flown to Phoenix from Denver, it's a short flight, about an hour and a half, and Tammy was listening to a podcast on her earbuds. It was actually the Robcast. I don't know if you've heard of the Robcast. It's one of our favorite podcasts. It's run by Rob Bell, one of my favorite spiritual teachers. He's taught me so much. But she was listening to this podcast, and about halfway through, she takes her earbuds out. She says, "Hey, what's the emotion you're doing this week?" And I said, "Sadness." She said, "That's what I thought. You need to listen to this part." And so I put the earbuds in, and Rob Bell was talking about how sadness laughs at the intellect. Because oftentimes our first instinct when we're sad is to ask, well, man, why in the heck am I sad? What am I sad about? And then he says at that point, it's a bit like wrestling water. It's a bit like grabbing at the air, and it can be difficult to get your intellect, your mind around sadness. Because we're asking all kinds of questions like, well, am I sad because of the state of the world? Or am I sad because of that broken relationship from 7 years ago? Or am I sad because of something happening on the other side of the globe that with a people that I've never met, a land I've never been? I mean, why in the heck am I sad? So he says this. He said, sadness is hard to follow back to its cave. It's almost like sadness comes and says, I'm here, so let's hang out. It's almost like sadness clings tighter the more you try to shake it. So my brothers and sisters, this evening, we are not going to try to shake sadness. because it'll just cling tighter. What we're going to try to do for the next few minutes is to actually sit with sadness, to actually embrace it and welcome it. So this evening, for some of you, maybe for the next few moments, things can finally slow down enough for you to feel the things you have actually been feeling. You know what I mean? Yeah, that slowing down enough, it's important, isn't it? Man, it's hard to do culturally. That slowing down enough. That happened to me. I had an experience this Tuesday. And not to rehash last week's theme, but y'all remember what happened last Thursday. We found out we had to terminate the purchase sale agreement, this contract that we've been working on for 3 months. So excited about moving into our new home, Free's new home. Friday, that was Thursday night. Friday, I worked on my message and what I was going to talk about with you all. And then Saturday got here. I was at Free most of the day and well into the evening. And then Sunday, we got up early and hopped on a plane to go to Phoenix. And then Monday, we were in Phoenix. And Tuesday, we got home and I was finally able to catch my breath a little bit, able to sit. Things became quiet enough. Things slowed down enough. Because sometimes you got to feel the things you've actually been feeling. You know what else happened while we were in Phoenix? On our way to the airport, on the way back to the Phoenix airport, we received word that Christian, a young man who was a member of this community, he took his life. Yeah, Tuesday that set in a little bit. I think we have a picture of Christian. Do we have Christian? There's Christian. Some of y'all might remember him. He hasn't been around in the last year or so. And you know, when that caught up to me on Tuesday, I was thinking, why is this thing hitting me this way? It's not like Christian and I were tight. We didn't talk on the phone every day. We weren't best of friends. But you know what hit me? Some of y'all know exactly what I'm talking about with this. When people, not everyone, but when some people die of this disease of alcoholism and drug addiction, they die completely isolated and alone. Christian died 4 months ago, and we just heard about it. Some days it's just there, and other days you know exactly where that sadness comes from. You can follow it back to its cave, but even then, culturally, we still suck at sadness, don't we? We don't want to feel that stuff. Some of you have experienced such deep loss and sadness, and you've never grieved it properly. Some of you have had people in your life to add to it. You've had people in your life, sometimes they're the ones you love most. They're the ones closest to you, and they have said things to you during your deep moments of sadness that were really unhelpful. Or maybe even worse, they were harmful. I mean, how many of you have experienced a loss and someone comes along to you and says, oh, don't feel that. Don't feel that. There's a reason for everything. Oh, don't feel that way. Look on the bright side. Oh, no. Don't feel that sadness. God's got a better plan. And the truth is, we could mention 100 other cliche sayings that go just like that. And y'all listen, I get it. Yes, we think we're being helpful when we say that. We have the best of intentions, but all those sayings, they say the same thing. It sends the same message. Don't feel that sadness, feel something else. Or how many of you have lost someone that you love recently? And you know there's been a host of people that have come along and they've said things to you like, well, at least he's in a better place now. Or, well, maybe God needed her more than we did. Or at least, as someone said to my mom shortly after my brother passed away, at least you still have your 2 other children. I mean, y'all, again, you know that we could come up with 100 other cliche sayings that go with this. And I know, again, we think we're being helpful, but it always sends the same message. Don't feel that sadness. Feel something else. And I think we say these things. The truth is we say them because we're uncomfortable. We don't want to sit with it. We don't know how to feel it. And the last thing I want to do is actually sit with you in your pain, because that's hard work. Man, that stuff that demands our presence. That's hard work. You know, there have been a few times in my ministry that I have come face to face with the power of presence, and it always happens in the most uncomfortable ways. You know, several years ago, I remember sitting in the living room of a family's home, and they had just received word that their son had been tragically killed, young adult son. And I was sitting in the living room with them and some of their other family members and some of their closest friends. It was just a few of us, and we were waiting for the daughter, their young adult daughter, who was best friends with their son. We were waiting for her to get home so that someone could share the news of what had just happened. And y'all, I will never forget when she walked through the door and someone really gently walked up to her and greeted her and shared what had just happened, and the shrill scream that came from the depths of her being. And man, it just sat with me. And I remember getting in the car and driving home, and you know what I remember? The words I didn't have. And you know, my first funeral as a pastor of a local church, my first funeral, the other pastors were out of town, and I got a call from David and Diana Slade, members of this community, dear friends to this day, because tragic events have a way of binding you together. And they called, and they had just received word that their 21-year-old daughter, Brittany, was chased down after work, after she was walking to her car after work, and she was murdered that night. And I remember getting with them that evening and sitting. And you know what I remember? The words I didn't have. And a few years ago, I got a call from a mother in our congregation, and she was frantic and beside herself. And I couldn't understand what she was saying. She couldn't catch her breath. And finally, she was able to catch her breath. And in between sobs, she let me know that her son had just taken his life in front of her. And I immediately went to this dear family's home, and I sat with them at their kitchen table, and there were officers and detectives moving about. And after being there for just a few minutes, it was clear to me that they needed someone to go pick up her husband, the father of this young adult son who had just taken his life. And man, I remember being in the car and driving to pick him up. I'll never forget that car ride. And his face, and breaking this terrible news to him, and getting in the car together, and the silence and the weeping, the shaking, the fist at God. God, where are you in this thing? And you know what I remember? The hours sitting at their kitchen table and all the words I didn't have. And what I can tell you, since then I have sat with dozens of families in their greatest moments of sadness. Families who have lost someone they love to an untimely death. Families who have lost someone they love to suicide. Families who have lost loved ones to this ugly disease of addiction, drug and alcohol addiction. And, you know, when I get those calls now, and when I jump in the car, I always pray the same prayer now, and that is, God, help me be present to their pain. Because listen, the truth is there's this impulse that comes about, and it says when you get there, you got to give them answers. That's what they need. They need answers. And if you don't have answers, when you get there, you're going to look weak, or it's going to look like you don't know what you're doing. And my brothers and sisters, during your moments of great sadness, be very leery of those people who come along and try to give you answers. Be very leery of those who try to explain to you why God did something. See, I learned a long time ago, as a pastor, my power is never positional, it's relational. And I believe the same is true for you too. You don't have to be a pastor for this kind of stuff. You see, your power, your greatest power in the world, it has nothing to do with your position or your status or how much you know or how much you don't know. Your superpower, your real superpower in the world is relational. Do you know how to sit with people in their pain? Do you know how to sit with people in that moment of sadness? Because listen, the truth is the ones in your life who are in that deep moment of sadness right now, they don't need your answers. I promise you they don't need your answers. They don't need you to drop some wisdom on them. They don't need your solutions. And I know for people in recovery, this is a hard one because we're so solution oriented. We got to get to the solution. If you try to give them a solution, you're saying there's something wrong with their pain. They don't need your solution. They don't need your answers. They don't need you to come drop your wisdom bombs. What they need is for you to be there. They need you, the real you. They need your presence. You see, there's this ancient Jewish practice, and it's been tremendously helpful for me. Some of you might have heard of this. It's called sitting Shiva. Anyone heard of sitting Shiva? Yeah. In sitting Shiva, you go to the person you love who's just lost a loved one, and you go and you sit in their home. And the purpose is to just simply sit with them and be with them, not to give answers, not to give your solutions, but to just sit. If they want to talk, fine. But silence is also fine. And when you are sitting Shiva, the idea is you are fully present to their pain. You are fully present to that moment of sadness. Sitting Shiva, going into their home. You know, when I was in seminary, I took an immersion course. And part of this immersion course, we were down in Cuernavaca, Mexico. And the purpose of this course was to study relations between U.S. and Mexico, and it was to look at issues of poverty in Mexico. And I remember on this particular day, we were out and about in some surrounding villages of Cuernavaca. And some of the people in their villages, they invited us to into their homes, and they shared their stories with us. There was lots of tears. And then that evening we came back to our camp, and we were, all of us seminary students, we were sitting in a circle with the professor, and we were going around the circle giving our answers of what we thought should happen, of how to fix this thing. We were giving our solutions, and we need to do this, and we need to give them that. Maybe they just don't know this, and they need to do that, because that conversation doesn't reek of power and privilege, does it? And so here we are going around the circle, and it gets to the professor. And we were all looking to him like he was going to drop the real answer on us. And he got real quiet. And it was silent for a minute. And he said, I wonder what it would be like if we just started by crying with them. What kind of solution is that? You know, there's a story in, I'll close with this. There's a story in John's Gospel. It comes from John chapter 11. You can read John 11 later tonight. It's a story about Jesus and his friend named Lazarus. Lazarus lived in a different village, a village called Bethany, and it was a village a few miles from where Jesus was. And Lazarus had a couple of sisters. You might remember vague pieces of this story, Mary and Martha. And Jesus heard that his friend Lazarus had just died, and so he begins making his way into this village. And he arrives into Bethany, and the two sisters of Lazarus, they run out to greet Jesus. And they both say at different times, they say, Jesus, if you would have been here, this thing wouldn't have happened. If you would have been here, the outcome would be different. And the text tells us that the sisters and others in the village, they started to weep. He was a beloved member of that community. They started to weep. And then the text tells us that Jesus, and it uses these words, was so deeply moved. And then what comes next is this verse, John 11:35. Maybe you can memorize it later. It's the shortest verse in Scripture. Jesus wept. It's kind of a beautiful image, isn't it? Jesus weeping. I mean, he feels this pain and sadness and loss, and he doesn't ignore it. He doesn't run from it. He doesn't avoid it. He goes right into it. He enters into it. He felt something so deep within. He weeps with them, for them. He felt the full force of the moment, because the truth is, you have to let that force hit you. You cannot avoid your emotions and then just expect them to disappear, just expect them to go away. You have to let it hit you. Listen, if we stuff those emotions, they come out, don't they? When we stuff them, they end up coming out at some point, and what happens is they come out in really unhealthy ways. Is it true? You see, maybe you went through a loss a long time ago, and you never properly grieved it. And the truth is, it's still somewhere in there. And now it's coming out in some weird, unhealthy ways. And maybe somewhere along the way, you've become bitter with the whole thing. Your life has become bitter. The sadness has just kind of sat there, and it hasn't been dealt with. And it's been there for too long. And maybe now you're consumed with guilt and pain and even blame, and maybe you're still holding on to like that, shaking the fist at God. God, if you would have been there, that wouldn't have happened. God, if you would have stepped in, if you would have intervened, that thing wouldn't have happened. Or maybe the blame, it turns away from you or away from God, and it goes straight to you. Like you say, man, if I would have done things differently, that thing wouldn't have happened. If I would have taken that other turn, if I wouldn't have said this, or if I said more of this, maybe that thing wouldn't have happened. And now your entire life becomes about that which you've lost. My friends, don't let that happen. Life is better than that, but you have to sit with your sadness so that it can actually come out in appropriate ways. Don't let your life become only about that which you do not have, because if it becomes only about that, then you'll miss out on all the things you do have. You know, there was a psalmist, and he wrote this psalm, and he was crying out to God, and he said, though you have made me see troubles many and bitter, you will restore me again. And see, in your moments of deepest sadness, God is sitting Shiva with you, fully present to all of your pain, fully present to the gravity of the moment, fully present to the sadness. Jesus wept. And your heart, it will recover again. I know it takes time, doesn't it? It doesn't happen fast enough. Your heart will recover again. I believe that. It's been my experience. And it's true. You know the shortest verse in the scripture, it is John 11:35. Jesus wept in the English. But do y'all know the New Testament was written in Greek? It's the original language, the Greek language. And in the Greek language, Jesus wept is 16 characters. And I tell you that because what that means is there's actually one verse in the New Testament that's shorter than Jesus wept. This verse is only 14 characters in the Greek. And it comes from this book called 1 Thessalonians. We talked about 1 Thessalonians last week. Paul was writing this letter to this beloved community that he had fallen in love with, and they were struggling. They were asking all sorts of questions, had all sorts of doubts. And Paul writes this letter to calm them. And he says in 14 characters, rejoice always. You see, maybe it's a subtle reminder for us that somewhere in the midst of the weeping, there's joy. That weeping doesn't get the final word. Sadness doesn't have the final word. So I invite you all to take a moment, as we do in this community, and reflect. Reflect on the question, what are the things that you need to grieve so that you might experience some joy? What are the things you need to grieve properly that you've been holding on to for weeks, months, years, decades? How do you let that stuff out? Take a moment, then we'll come back. All right, welcome back, everybody. Has anyone heard of NF, the rap artist NF, the white rapper? I love NF. I saw NF in concert last year. He was here in Denver. What's that? Lucky, yeah, very lucky. Anyway, I was thinking of NF as I was walking to get back to get my coffee. He has this line where he says that sometimes he receives hate because his content is too heavy. So I realized tonight's a bit heavy with sadness. How do you talk about sadness and not make it a bit heavy? It's not going to be that way forever. Sadness does not have the final word. Next week we have, what do we have next? Compassion. And then the next week, resentment. That could get a little heavy. Some of y'all got some resentments we need to deal with. There's a step for that. And then we have joy. And it's going to be all sorts of good fun. But before we get there, let's stay in the heavy for a minute because I want y'all to meet my friend and brother from another mother, as he told me to introduce him as, Nate Haines. Nate Haines is here. He's going to walk through with us his journey of sadness and how recovery, how the 12 steps actually helped him go through some healthy sadness, let it out in healthy ways so it stopped coming out in unhealthy ways. We're going to talk about all of it. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome my friend Nate Haines. Look at this, dude. Dude, I gotta raise up, get a little higher. I know, man. Are you that? How tall are you?
5'9".
5'9". Good. I'm taller than you. I'm taller than Nate. Nate, you know what I love, dude? You wore your Metallica shirt to get a picture in it, which is just kind of awesome. Are you a Metallica fan?
You gotta love Metallica.
Dude.
They have some deep lyrics.
Unforgiven?
They do.
Unforgiven? Yeah, man.
It's all about it.
All right, let's talk about sadness, shall we?
Yes.
So I wanted Nate to share with you, as I just said, this journey of sadness and what it looked like for you prior to 2017. How did Nate deal with sadness? What it looked like? Tell us all the unhealthy ways you dealt with sadness. How about that?
Guys, ready for a lesson on what not to do? Oh man. Yeah. So growing up, you know, it was a pretty a damaging environment. There was a lot of physical and mental abuse that I experienced growing up. A lot of divorces. My mom was married 4 times by the time I got out of high school. So there was a lot of shifting around, a lot of unacceptance, bouncing in and out of families. But when she married my dad, 'cause my biological dad had some mental illness, and my dad came into my life when I was about 3. Now this guy was the man that if I could be half of who he is, I'll be a success in my book.
He
right?
was the bee's knees.
He was the bee's knees, and he's the guy. And in 2005, he was diagnosed with lung cancer at the age of 48, and in June he passed away, and that destroyed me because I literally, you know, I had to watch my dad call my sisters who were 9 and 5 and tell him he was going to sleep and he wasn't going to get up. And this is a guy who was not supposed to go. He was the only thing, like, that I had. And this part is what I want to share with you because it's okay. It's okay to feel that, right? But I couldn't feel it for a very long time. I wasn't allowed. I had to be strong for my sisters. I had to be strong for my stepmom. And there was always something where I wasn't able to feel. And
Real quick, let me interrupt you real quick. Just raise your hand if you were raised and you had to be the strong one in the family. Yep, we got a lot of strong people here. Yeah, go ahead.
And I got so tired of people saying this and like hearing these statements over and over, and you know, and I had battled with alcohol, and so of course I would drink, and that would be my scapegoat, right? Just get in, numb it up, and don't have to deal with it. And of course people have said, well, it's just an excuse for you to drink. You know, it was never anything else. It was either be strong or it's just another excuse to drink, and you know, you're just looking for an out. And I could feel I remember watching, you know, it was like when the Star Wars movies came out and you could see like Anakin Skywalker just was getting engulfed by the dark side, that look in his face of that anger and hate and resentment and bitterness. this felt like it consumed my soul. Like it just ate me and became who I was. And if you hurt me, I was going to make you feel it 10 times more. So that way, if you felt what you were making me feel, then maybe you would stop doing it.
Yeah, how'd that work for you?
Oh man, like a charm.
Revenge.
Right? Revenge
Right?
is
Yeah, like a charm.
and it's brutal because not only do you hurt the person that's involved, but you hurt yourself when you're doing it. Because everything you do to somebody, you pay the price. For me, I internalize it and I will sit on it for years. I don't know if I lost it, but it engulfed me. And then you fast forward, and in 2011, I had an injury. A surgery went bad, and it in my lower back, and it took my ability to move, to walk, to function. And you fast forward a few years, I did everything I could with physical therapy, dry needling, spinal cord stimulator implant, multiple surgeries, and the final cocktail was, let's get you on some pain medication, right? Because that's what's going to cure you. And they gave me oxycodone, diazepam, which is Valium, and gabapentin in extremely high doses. 2014 to 2016 is a blur, right? Because you couple that and then with alcohol, and it was a catalyst for a storm.
Yeah, and I just want to mention, because I made a list as you were talking the other day. From 2011 to 2016, you lost physical health, career, friends, mental health, marriage, family, finances, kids.
And kids.
I mean, I think you lost it all in those
Everything.
years.
And I ended up in a house. And this is how we had a house in a cul-de-sac, and I moved 2 doors over. So literally, I'm watching my family go into this house. The only thing in this house was a couch, a TV, and an air mattress. And I lived in there for a year and a half. And I didn't even realize a year and a half gone by because I was so out of it. And I'm watching this man that's Michelle, my girl's mom, had been with. I just was the last to know. Go in and out of my house with my daughters, and I couldn't even protect them. And it's the worst solitude you could ever have. There was no phone calls. There was no text messages. There was no outside community. There was nothing for a year and a half. I mean, it was as dark as you could possibly get. And I also didn't have my physical health. I couldn't get up. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. And it consumed me. I had this darkness that just overwhelmed every aspect of my life. And I can remember on July 3rd, and it was approximately 11:55 p.m., looking up and just screaming, at God, just help me. Like something help me as I'm downing my vodka so I don't have to do anything. And my girls are up camping somewhere, and my family's gone. Everything is gone. And like you said, my career was gone. My friends were gone. They're great. For the first 6 months, you're hurt. And then out of sight, out of mind, right? Your health is gone. Your kids are gone. My finances, during this time, Michelle had me sign off on all the houses. So I signed off on 4 houses. The bank account, she cleared out $100-some thousand just gone. Everything was empty. And I was living on $80 a month worth of groceries. And I ended up weighing about 162 pounds. I mean, I withered into nothing. I mean, there was nothing left to even fight for.
And tell us what was difficult about, why didn't you grieve that?
And so with the grieving process, there comes a point of where it's acceptance. You have to accept everything that you've lost. And I couldn't go down like that. I couldn't do it. I was taught you can't show your emotions. You can't feel it, right? You're not allowed to show it. You got to be the strong one. You got to be tough. And it's so backwards the way society goes, right? Because the only way to heal from anything is to face it. Because if you don't, I tried running, and I'm fast, and I ran far. I ran all the way to New York trying to get rid of this, but it catches you. It catches you no matter how far you go or where you try to hide. It finds you, and it engulfs you, and it engulfed me on a daily basis. It was relentless. And when I finally was able to kind of come together, it was at midnight. I told myself, okay, I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to go back to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? And I didn't know what to expect because I couldn't even sit in the meetings. When I would go to the meetings, I would be slouching on 3 different chairs, right? And people would profile me because now I'm just that guy that's sitting in the back slouching on the chairs. Don't even have respect for you guys to sit up and listen to the meeting, right? And that's how I was treated. A lot of the times it was just profiled. I was shamed. I was based on how I looked or how I walked. That's how I was treated. And it was horrible. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what the steps were going to do. I didn't have anything to lose at this point, right? You've already taken everything I could possibly be taken. What are you going to take now, right? Don't ever ask that question. Don't ever ask that question, because more was taken.
So tell us, how did recovery help you grieve?
Yeah, so basically, I was finally able to learn that feeling, like going through the steps, you don't know what's going to happen, right? There's a lot of reservations. But I would implore any of you that are struggling with any type of addiction to just start. Just begin at the step one, right? And going through the steps, for me, I was taught that no matter what it was, how far, away it was, how many years ago, if I was a kid, that it was okay to go back and to write out all those resentments, all of those thoughts, all of those fears, right?
Yeah.
And to face each and every one individually. I was able to learn how to breathe, right? Because I couldn't breathe. You talk about my dad and it takes my breath away, right? I couldn't breathe. And, going through the steps, it then became something like there's hope, right? Because you'll really screw up and you'll laugh, right? You'll be in one of these meetings or in this community and you'll giggle, right? You're supposed to be mad and sad and angry, right? But you giggle, and that becomes contagious. You ever been in a room where somebody starts laughing for no reason, and then all of a sudden you're laughing, and then you're laughing, and then somebody's laughing over here, and then someone's laughing over in this back, right? It's contagious because it's healthy. It's what God wants us to have in our lives, right? And, through the grace of God, when you go through, for me, I was able to release everything that I was carrying around. And just picture me just carrying that bag of boulders around on my shoulder, no matter where I went. I was just lugging this bag, and every chance I could, I was just grabbing those boulders and shoving them in, thinking that I was going to be okay, and that it was going to be okay. And slowly, one by one, I started removing these boulders, right? And that compression on my chest started to alleviate, and I could breathe in and out, and I could start feeling again, right? And feeling is the key, right? Because you're allowed to feel sad and mad and resentful and all of those gauntlet of emotions that we go through when things are taken, or when we lose a loved one, or we financially, are in ruins, or you lose a career. You have the ability to face each and every one of those and go through the circle of emotions. Be angry, be happy, be sad, be mad, whatever it is, because that allows you to heal, right? Then you get to learn, oh, okay, well, this is what I should have done on day one. This is where I should have been from the get-go.
Yeah. And for so much of our lives, we spent them running from we don't want to feel. I mean, isn't that what drugs or alcohol did for us?
Absolutely.
It took away the feelings. We could numb out.
Numbs you up so you don't have
And
to
when you
anything.
feel, you heal. Ooh.
Absolutely.
When you feel things,
you feel, you
you
heal.
start to heal, right?
You do.
That should be
And
a
I know-
book. That should be a book. When you feel, you heal.
Hashtag.
T-shirts being made right now.
That's right.
All right, Nate. Is there anything you want to leave us with for someone that's really either in this room, or there's your camera right there, for someone who's watching online tonight, and they're battling, man, that they've got this sadness that's just kind of sat there and they haven't dealt with it? What hope do you give?
Absolutely.
Give us one line.
Right now, if you're listening, and for everybody that's here, I know how hard it is to get out of bed. When you feel this just like engulfing you, you cannot get out of bed. You can't even get the breath or the energy to roll out. Take the step. Just stand up. Get dressed. Doesn't matter what you look like. Doesn't matter about your presentation. Walk through this door. Walk through this door and let the miracles happen, because I guarantee you're going to be greeted with a smile. Somebody will greet you. Somebody will know your name. And no matter how hard it is or how lost you might be that day, by the time you leave this meeting, you will feel some kind of reprieve, because you're not sitting at home playing that record over and over and over that you just cannot stop. You can stop it the second you come in here today. So I'd implore you, no matter how hard you think it is, and even though you can't see that light at the end of the tunnel, trust me, there is one. And we will be that light until you can find it for yourself.
Yeah. Thank you, Nate. And if you're not local, I think Nate's point is, this community is awesome, and everything he said is true. And if you're not local, find people. I mean, you weren't created to walk this journey alone. Find people. Walk this journey with other people.
Absolutely.
You don't have to do it alone. Y'all, if you have questions for Nate or you want to stick around and talk to him, he's going to stick around afterwards, right? I didn't ask you
Absolutely.
that, but I just made that up. You're going to stick around, right?
We're here.
All right.
That's
Nate's
right.
here for the long haul, so stick around, ask Nate questions. Thank you, Nate, for being here, brother.
Absolutely.
It's good to see you, dude. Glad you're here.
Guys.
I'll sit back down for a moment so I can stay in the range. The way we end things around here at Free is those heartaches. Because as Nate just mentioned, we don't walk this journey alone. We walk it together. A whole community of people traveling together. You weren't created to carry those heavy burdens alone. So in this community, we lift them up. We lift up one another. We heartache together, just like we celebrate together. We have a prayer team here at Free that prays for you throughout the week and tries to connect with you throughout the week. And I know you all encourage each other throughout the week. You Facebook each other, or text message, or IG each other, however the kids do it these days. Y'all do that. Y'all get that. The importance of lifting one another up. So take 3 minutes and, yeah, it's your opportunity to get a bit vulnerable. And I know there's a piece of you that says, well, that's a little creepy if I just get on there and put a comment in about my heartache. No, it ain't creepy. You're saying you need community to do this. So vulnerability can feel weird, but it's a good thing, I promise you. So take 3 minutes. Give us the heartache that you're carrying. If you're here in the house, we'll do our own thing. And then just like with celebrations, we'll come back in 3 minutes. So take 3. Give us the heartaches. Prayers for your sister. Thank you for sharing that with us. And there's a bit of celebration in that too, huh? All right. Thank you, Judy. I'm glad you're here. Dude, look, what is this about, man? How am I supposed to take this serious? How many home runs you hit today?
I did not hit. Well, I hit it inside the Parker, so one.
All right, dude, that's
But
surprising.
it was more about recovery, and so it was just a cool experience.
I saw that, dude, that you posted the whole
Yeah, it was
hundreds
like
of people saying the Serenity Prayer.
400 people Serenity Prayer all circled up. I was tearing up. It was awesome. So
That's cool, man. For those of you that don't know, Derek and Hallie, actually Hallie more than Derek, has been our softball coach.
yeah,
They've done it together. I'm just kidding. We would be nowhere. We would lose every game without them. So that ain't saying a whole lot. We have a good time, man.
We do.
And thank you for leading us.
thank you.
All right. And if you want Rocky's tickets, see this dude afterwards.
Please do.
All right, let's do some heartache, shall we?
Let's
You
do
take the
it.
first one.
Okay. Vicky, please pray for my cousin who's suffering with addiction and thoughts of suicide. We definitely lift you up, as many are struggling with addiction and suicide. We lift up you and your family, Vicky.
Yeah. Prayers for you, Vicky. Roy says, prayers for my cousin Eddie, who suffers with PTSD, has had to put his wife Heather into hospice. She only has days left. Eddie is a wreck. All right, Roy, we're lifting Eddie up and all who are affected by that.
Love you, Roy.
Heather as well. Yeah, glad you're part of this community, Roy, all the way from North Carolina.
Amen. Tammy, grieving loss of mom and best friend as my mom and I always called each other and knew that we were, but I'm still in the midst of hiding numbing, and this sermon and share were blessings. We definitely lift you up, Tammy. It's never easy, but again, as Ryan said, sit in those emotions, be vulnerable, and let people sit with you. So prayers for you, Tammy.
Yeah, and Derek, I'm always amazed too that the vulnerability it takes for just Tammy to share that with us. Tammy, I'm not even sure if we've ever met before, but I'm glad you're in this community. I'm glad you shared that with us tonight. We're lifting you up. Let's do one more, shall we?
Amen.
Mike says, still searching for answers from the doctors for my wife's medical issues. Mike, man, we're still lifting you up then. You and your wife still praying for you. Hope you get the answers that you need soon. I know that the waiting period. We know something about waiting here. So prayers for you, brother. Glad you're part of this community. Love you, dude. Let's do one more.
One more?
You take it.
Awesome. Hallie, do we know her? Prayers for my son's surgery Monday. Anesthesia scares mom. Definitely lived up Jamie. Lift you up, Hallie, and hope that everything goes well and God's with him on that. Amen to that.
Yeah, Hallie, glad you're part of this community. Thank
Yes,
you for
we
sharing
are.
that with us. Prayers for your son.
I love you, and I lift you up.
Thanks, dude.
I'd hug you, but I'm dirty.
You are
High
dirty,
five.
man. You look good though. You
Thank
look like a Rockies player.
Yeah, we don't do shame, right?
We don't do shame. All right, y'all. So, how we officially end in this community. I said we end with heartaches. We do, but I do want to mention to y'all, we are still, I said I would say a little bit more about this. We are still in the midst of this Welcome Home campaign to expand the mission, to keep creating home. I mean, and I know that the setup of this space is really weird. You can't see each other. You can't see each other. You can't see each other. But look at how many people are in this space who call this place home, and we want to keep doing that for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees, those people who say, man, I've been kicked around by religion, I've been kicked around by the church, and this is like a last shot for me, this is a last opportunity for me, and we'll see how it goes. And so in order to do this thing together, in order to do this capital campaign, yes, we lost the space that we were looking forward to calling home, but we do know that we still have to prepare for the home that's waiting for us. We don't know where it is yet. Tammy and I just went and looked at more spaces this week. We are looking on the daily with Tammy Lord, who's leading this process as our real estate agent. So we're looking, y'all. We're going to find home. It's happening. But here's where we are to date. Do we have the image on the screen? I think we do. We've got 99 people who have donated so far. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're 12 weeks into this. You're not going to hear about this at the end of August because that's when we're done. So if you're like, man, he's talked about it for the last 12 weeks. I have talked about it for the last 12 weeks, and we got 3 weeks left. We're at 379,000 of the 600,000, and that is to prepare for the vision of expanding home, a place of healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. So there are bins here at Free, but there's also There's also 3 ways to give online if you want to give. And if you want to give to the Welcome Home campaign, just put Welcome Home in the memo. You can download the app and give on the app. Or you can go right to the website. You don't have to download an app. You can go to the website, freespiritualcommunity.com, and you can give there. Or you can text the number on your screen, and it will walk you through a simple set of instructions. And totally aside from the Welcome Home campaign, it is truly, y'all, your generous giving that helps sustain this mission. It helps keep Free moving in a forward direction. To all of you who've been a part of this, really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a huge thing to see 99 people who have been part of this thing. It's a community. We're in it together, and I love y'all. Thank you for being part of it. We're going to keep going together, and we're going to find a home. I'll keep y'all in the loop. Each week I'm going to give you an update. All right.
Tell us about the wagon, bud.
Shall I tell you about the wagon? Let me tell you the story about the wagon, because we don't do it alone. And then we are going to close with the serenity prayer, and then we're going to have some coffee together and connect. Y'all see this wagon? This was with us from day one. The story of the wagon. This was in our backyard when we started Free in our backyard. The story of the wagon is when I was out in L.A., I was taking a tour of the Union Rescue Mission, the largest rescue mission in the country, and I was taking a tour with the executive director. We went up to the top floor where they have their memorabilia, and in the center of their memorabilia was this big picture on the wall of a wagon. And I said, dude, what's the wagon? He said, you don't know about the wagon? I said, apparently not. I need to know about the wagon. And he said, that's how we got started here at the rescue mission back in the late 1800s. This wagon, not this wagon, but a different wagon, the one on the wall, they would go into the roughest parts of LA, even back in the 1800s. And the people on this wagon would hand out things like food and clothing and hope and Bibles and other resources. And then at the end of the night, they would welcome anyone who wanted to get on the wagon to jump on. And they were headed to a place of recovery. Now, what happens when you get a bunch of drunk people on a wagon? Some of them fall off, and when they would fall off, this wagon would stop, and the sober ones would jump off, and they would get the drunk ones, and they would help get them back on, because they knew where they were headed, a place of recovery, a place of connection, a place of healing. And when I saw that, when I heard that story, I said, that's the church. I mean, I know it's not what we think of when we think of religion, but that when the church is at its best, it is the wagon for all people. So we want to be the wagon together here. So I invite you, my brothers and sisters, to open up your hands. It's a sign of letting God, letting the divine in. And we're going to go out with this prayer because there are things we cannot control. There are some things we can control. And we need some wisdom, don't we? So if you don't know this prayer, let's pray it together. It's on the screen. It's called the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen, my free brothers and sisters. Tonight and this week, may you go in all kinds of grace and peace. And if that sadness is sitting there, deal with it. Your life is worth it, but you have to deal with it if you want to get to the healing, if you want to get to the joy. Sit with the sadness. You don't have to have all the answers, but you do have to sit with it. And as you do that, grace and peace. We'll see you next week, y'all.